Hey friends, Sean from SGT Report here. Look, what you're about to hear is a very heated exchange between Andy Hoffman and myself. And before I play this interview, I just want to say that the slander against Lynette Zang continues to pour out, even today in an exchange between V the Guerrilla Economist and Bix Weir, two people with whom I'm friends.
I think she was talking about a super node where it's centralized control of all the assets in the world.
Horseshit.
Stupidity. Complete stupidity.
Horse shit.
And I'm so freaking tired of holding back on this thing because I know everybody's, oh my God, she's such a sweet lady and she's just trying to inform the public. Well, she better inform herself first before she goes out and tries to inform the public. Completely ridiculous.
Yeah, totally.
And again, I just don't understand the vitriol. I've never seen it before in this sector of the economic truth community, and I find it troubling. But beyond that, I'd like to say that I continue to get very insightful emails from researchers now all over the world who are digging into cryptocurrencies and the ACChain and what's going on in China. One of the emails I received today was from Mark. He's from Sweden, and he brought to my attention a 1988 document titled Untraceable Electronic Cash. Again, this is from 1988, the same year that The Economist magazine was released with the phoenix rising from the burning pile of ashes. It was written by David Chaum from the Center for Mathematics and Computer Science, Amos Fist from the Tel Aviv University, and Moni Naor of the IBM Alsmaden Research Center. And he points out that on page 3.1, the first paragraph about untraceable coins shows a symbol which is exactly like the symbol around the phoenix's neck and the gold medallion on the cover of that Economist magazine. Perhaps it's just a coincidence. I also received an email today from David DuByne, who produces videos for his YouTube channel Adapt 2030. And he says he saw the report with Lynette Zang on ACC and China blockchain. So having worked in China before, he says, and speaking fluent Chinese as he does, he did some deep digging and presents his findings in a video he produced over the last few days. It intertwines, he says, NPC, REC, SER, and PEB tokens as a pyramid through ACC.
I wanted to get into a real deep explanation of what ACChain is. It's actually called the Asset Collection Chain. The logo is pretty interesting, and there's a lot of tie-ins with this Economist cover from 1988 about get ready for a world currency.
And he broke it down into easy terms with graphics and white papers, and then followed the trail to Allcoin in Canada and in different exchanges where ACC and PEB are traded in Asia.
Talk about flying under the radar. So far under the radar, they're almost unfindable. That is on purpose. That is not that, whoa, they have no exposure. They've gone out of their way to have no exposure. That is the difference. And when you start seeing billboards like this, the world currency, and you know the People's Bank of China is developing their own blockchain to issue their own new digital currency issued from China for world settlement, it makes you wonder. Now, the last piece of the puzzle has to be how to facilitate all these transactions. If they're actually going to go global and try to do what all of our modern banking systems do, including BIS and the IMF, they're going to have an enormous network. Enter quantum communications.
I'll post the link to that documentary below. It's called Timeline for Global Cryptocurrency Acceptance, Digitizing Commodities and Mini Ice Age Crop Losses. I watched the video, and it does cover the method to digitize all property, commodities, labor, and assets onto ACC blockchain and NPC tokens out of China through China's quantum network.
They know what's coming again. That's why they are trying to put everything into a digital format so it can be moved with their new currency that they're going to control. And they are also going to control the entire platform around it.
It's a very lucid, very well-produced video, and I draw your attention to it merely because the discussion about whatever world currency is coming, as predicted by the 1988 Economist magazine, is an important discussion, and I would beseech my colleagues and friends in the truth economy space to take a deep breath and stop slandering anyone that does not agree with you. Because, and as I point out in this interview with Andy Hoffman, none of us has a monopoly on truth. The goal of any truth teller should be merely investigating and finding the truth. And I think we can all agree that the banksters would like nothing more than to enslave humanity with a one-world currency, as predicted by that 1988 Economist cover. The question is, how will they do it? Without further comment, here's the interview with Andy Hoffman. Hey, how you doing, Andy?
Oh, I'm doing well. It's a very long day. Can't believe it's still 11 o'clock.
Well, should we just dive right in?
Yeah, and no disrespect.
Oh.
I'm gonna take this woman. In fact, just did another. I just did Crush the Street where we talked about this Lynette Zang. So happy to talk about it.
Okay, well, and let's just try to talk respectfully. I don't understand why everybody wants to take her out to the woodshed. All right, so you emailed me a few days back after my second Lynette Zang interview, and you said this: you have no idea how much damage your SDR blockchain FUD video is doing to our cause. Please bring it up on our call next week, as I will tear it to pieces and get 100,000 hits doing so. So let me ask you something. How is it that a conversation between me and Lynette Zang, who I do think is a very informed, intelligent woman, how is that conversation, how could it possibly, quote unquote, damage our cause? First, what is our cause? Our cause, I thought, was a return to honest money. And now I see Bix Weir even stepping away from the role that silver and gold should play in the future of our country. And he's completely only on the Bitcoin bandwagon now, and I'm a little confused. What exactly is our cause, and how did I damage it?
Well, actually, Bix still believes very strongly in silver, although he believes that there was gold found in the Grand Canyon 150 years ago, so you shouldn't own it. So, but that's another story. As for Lynette Zang,
well, wait. Now wait. Let's talk about Bix then. If you're going to bring that up in the gold, see, this is very important because I don't think any one of us has a monopoly on the truth. Evidently, though, I see really what I'm describing now as proselytizing going on with the new Bitcoin community here, and I'd throw you into that briar patch along with Bix.
Really?
There's a lot of proselytizing going on, and God forbid anybody like Lynette Zang say, I don't think Bitcoin will save you. That's all she said in that interview, and you guys unleashed the hounds on me. So let's just find out why she can't believe. Why is she not entitled to the opinion that Bitcoin won't save humanity? Number one, and number two, do you agree with Bix that there's some hoard of gold in the Grand Canyon, so nobody should own it?
Now, first of all, I was mocking. That is the most ridiculous assumption ever. Because if there was gold in the Grand Canyon, it would have been found. You know, he's like, well, there was a press release by a miner 100 years ago, and now no one can access that area. So it must mean that there's all this gold there because all of the rich people knew about it, and they didn't want their gold standard to be destroyed. So they hid it somehow for 150 years. This is, it's the point is, and the same with Lynette Zang. You want to hear the old ranting end here? I am so sick of FUD. I'm so sick of conspiracy theories. I'm so sick of BS that goes on that stops the ability for people to save themselves with honest money. And the same goes with Bitcoin. I'm not proselytizing. I've been the one bridge between precious metals and Bitcoin. I follow the Bitcoin saga I've been an owner for 2 years. I've learned as much about it as I learned about precious metals, and I understand how it works. And which I don't even need to watch a video to know it's ridiculous. First of all, there's never going to be an SDR. Okay. It's an absolutely ridiculous concept that a group of fiat currency issuing bankers in currencies that are failing, that all hate each other, are going to save the world by creating another fiat currency. The whole thing is so dumb. It's beyond belief that anyone listens to such garbage. And then when you talk about this Lynette Zang, she's talking about the IMF and the governments, they're commandeering Bitcoin and it's vulnerable. No, it's not. I listened to the smartest Bitcoin people on the planet. They'd laugh at her.
So out of all of that you've seen and knowing the Chinese People's Bank of China involvement and them coming out and working with NEO and quantum communications, and literally how everything is entangled in this whole web in the cryptocurrency space, I'll let you draw your own conclusion. I'm just bringing the information to you.
It's just like Karen Hudis, the lawyer from the IMF like 5 years ago said, I know that there's a big stash of gold in Hawaii. Just like Bix says, Bix knows that there's a big stash, and he doesn't think it. He knows that there's gold in the Grand Canyon. There's absolutely not a shred of evidence of it, but he knows it. And Karen Hudis, who is the lawyer, not even like a geologist or anything that has to do with or even financial, he's a lawyer, who, by the way, believes in space aliens, that they inhabit the Earth. I mean, really believes it, like beyond the what do you call it, the Tom Cruise religion, whatever you call it, Dinology, whatever you call it.
It's called Scientology.
Scientology, right? She knows that there's gold there. No, she doesn't. She's a liar. It's just propaganda. And as far as Lynette Zang, okay, what she's saying doesn't even make sense. It's a decentralized It's not even a currency. It's a decentralized protocol. No one owns it. No one commandeers it. And if anyone doesn't understand that, they should look into what just happened with the Bitcoin Cash fork that happened just a week ago, where a group of centralized, miners, and probably with the help of some nefarious, as they call them, bad actors, tried to split the chain by creating a new Bitcoin. And what happened? It failed. I mean, literally within hours. It was dead on arrival because you can't commandeer it. It's decentralized. It's the will of the people. It's the entire Bitcoin community, which is thousands of independent nodes that are operating. There's no one that could do anything that can stop it. If it could be truly hacked, that could stop it, but it can't be. It's SHA-256. It's like unique quantum computing. And you know what? If they develop that quantum computing, then the smart developers in the Bitcoin core would just go to another protocol. So no, I'm trying to say that, you're not hurting the cause because it really doesn't matter either way. I'm just tired of when I hear, and that's why I'm bringing it. I love BICs, but I'm just so tired of hearing all of these conspiracy theories. It just drives me nuts. You know why I have a big following? I have a big following because for 15 years, I've been speaking truth. And if I don't know the truth, I say I don't know the truth. I don't say, yeah, I think that there's gold in the Grand Canyon. I have not a shred of proof of it, but it makes for a good story. And it fits the mental idea. Just like Jim Rickard says, well, I'm an insider. I used to talk to these guys, and I used to be, I love it that Jim Rickard thinks his big call to fame is that he was the lawyer for the long-term credit management. Wow, that's great. What credentials. So he knows these guys, so he knows that they're plotting an SDR. There's no SDR. There's no commandeering of Bitcoin.
Well,
there's no gold in the Grand Canyon.
What on earth do you mean there's no SDR? I mean,
there is an SDR, but it's not going to do anything. It's going to do as much to the currency system as Bitcoin Cash is going to do to the Bitcoin system. Nothing.
All right, so wait a minute. Now, let's just slow down a second because we've conflated a couple of things here by getting into this Grand Canyon gold thing that wasn't even part of the original beef. This whole thing with Lynette Zang coming out and identifying some Chinese token, ACChain, as being something to take a look at, and I think that's all she's doing is taking a look at it and saying, look, there's a bank also involved in this, Pure Bank, and evidently they have some $15 billion in assets already tied up in this thing.
And you can understand why China is pushing for this digitization of assets. This will include your food supply. They're running it as a test, if you will, for tea, so it doesn't seem too obtrusive and scary. If I tell you I'm going to come in and take your wheat supply and I'm going to digitize it, how would you feel about that? Tea, that doesn't scare you.
And my question is why is it not okay to explore that avenue? And I would just call attention to my friend Roy Hall's article, SDR, Assimilation and Crushing the Banksters, that he wrote. He interviewed Dr. Warren Coates, who's the chief of the SDR. And
wow, the chief of the SDR, chief of the Keystone Cop. I mean,
can I finish? I don't understand. Listen, I really don't understand the vitriol. You talk about conspiracy theories. You're tired of conspiracies, Andy? Okay, what is the ultimate conspiracy? The Federal Reserve in 1913. It's the ultimate conspiracy, Andy. Who sits above the Federal Reserve? The IMF, the World Bank. Who sits above them? The Bank for International Settlements. That is a conspiracy and wide open, man.
As of now, okay, you're hearing it right now, I will never do an interview with anyone that speaks of any kind of conspiracy theories, okay? Of course, the Federal Reserve, it's not a conspiracy theory. It's a fact. They met, they coerced the Congress to create the Federal Reserve, and they printed money. There's nothing conspiracy theory about it. Yeah, maybe they met at Jekyll Island to plan it. That's possible. That's not conspiracy theory. Saying that there's gold in the Grand Canyon just because is a conspiracy theory. There's nothing to it.
I don't understand why
Lynette Zang, when she says, "Oh, look, there's a chain." Sean, do you know that there's like 1,000 cryptocurrencies? Who cares? Who cares about Warren, the head of the SDR? Believe me, no one cares. There's going to be yes, there is an SDR. It's not going to do anything. There's going to be no ACChain. This Lynette Zang, we'll never hear of her again. We'll never hear of the SDR again in practical usage. All this stuff. People, focus on reality, okay?
So the Chinese government's not on top of any of this. Visibly, they're not on the table. They are under the table, allowing everybody else to run with this, and they are so silent right now on what's happening. The way they're setting up the Chinese blockchain with the new UN replacement and NEO's platform, it all has to run through a centralized platform. There's no way to connect to it as a third party side chain. You have to connect through their centralized platform, which means it's centralized. It's not decentralized.
There's no gold. If you sell your gold thinking that it's in the Grand Canyon, it's your loss. If you sell Bitcoin thinking that Lynette Zang, who's a complete nobody who comes out of nowhere and suddenly starts telling you that it's going to be commandeered by the IMF and the SDR, good, it's your loss, okay? I am no longer going to be associated with conspiracy theory. I am associated with fact. And as of today, I am never interviewing anyone who does not accept fact, period.
Your emotions are really getting the best of you. I find it
really
telling. It's so telling.
Years of listening to FUD, F-U-D, fear, uncertainty, and doubt. Okay, and it hurts people. Fear, uncertainty, and doubt. What makes people make wise decisions, and why I am a bigger name on the internet than all these people talking, is because I speak facts. And when I don't know facts, I simply lay out what is out there and say, you can make your own opinions, but these are the facts. End of story.
Bit wider out here for you so you can really dig in and take a look at the International Node Exchange. These digital token SDR, international node tokens, can be settled in legal currency. They call it actually SDR digital currency, like special drawing rights. And again, it's a hierarchical chain. There's no decentralization involved in this at all. Each global node will then be established a general ledger token, a GLT for regional circulation, thus subservient to the international node.
All right, so let's just back up and let's rewind history, because you were not a Bitcoin proselytizer when it first came out. You were not an early adopter. I guess actually Cliff High, in defense of all of us, says we're all early adopters, or actually calls us innovators, because the general public is still so behind the eight ball on this thing. They haven't even heard of Bitcoin. They're not following it. They're not in on it. So why is it not okay for people's intelligence and curiosity, intellectual curiosity, to evolve over time? And for instance, in your case, 2 years ago, you jumped on the Bitcoin bandwagon. That's great. You've been right. I jumped on it about a year and a half ago, and I said people should start dipping a foot in the pool to have some skin in the game. I guess I just don't understand how this has all become so emotional. I really don't.
What's emotional? Because first of all, this word proselytizer, I'm not even sure what it is. I speak the facts of Bitcoin. You know why? Because I spent endless amounts of hours learning about how it works. So I'm simply speaking the facts about it. And then, of course, my opinion of where it's going to go. But, when you talk about 2 years ago, I was never putting out any FUD or any lies. I said I wasn't sure what the deal was. I'm curious about this 21 million coin cap because I know nothing about it, and it concerns me. I will look into it. That's it. I don't say that it's going to be taken over, that governments will destroy it, it can't win. I just say I don't know. I need to do research. I come from Wall Street. I spent 16 years on Wall Street. I'm a CFA. I was a financial analyst. And still, when I'm writing today, as a blogger, I do more financial analysis than probably all of our entire sector combined. The art of financial analysis, as in like actually looking at facts instead of stating opinions, particularly opinions where people have no idea what they're saying, it's beyond belief. And I'm going to really fixate on this Golden Grand Canyon thing because it's so ridiculous why anyone would believe it. In 100, 150 years, no one has found this gold? Let alone, heck, I worked in a company that mined for gold in Arizona. Arizona is like dead for gold. There's never been a major discovery of gold in Arizona ever. If you told me at least it was in Nevada, okay, or South Africa, there's been big discoveries. My company, I work for a company that desperately tried to find gold in Arizona. There's nothing there. There's copper in Arizona. So it's so ridiculous that it's beyond belief. And when you're telling people don't buy it because of that, how many gold mining, I worked for 5 years in the mining business. Not just for single companies, I worked for like some of the big investor relations companies. I had dozens of clients and I owned dozens of companies. There was one point where I knew like every company in the sector. And every single day, there's a new company saying, we found gold. We have a great discovery. Look, we got, look at these assays. They're amazing. I see that one of the guys who does a show the other day says, here's the super amazing geologist. He's super famous, and he said he's been searching for 25 years, and he's finally found the mother lode. Because look at the evidence he has here. But it's just not true. And now we're talking about back in the year 1900, someone in Arizona said that they found gold, so that we should take that as gospel. It is so dumb. It's beyond belief. And again, we're at the end of this fiat currency regime, and this is the time where fortunes are going to be made and lost, and lives are going to be made and lost because of the decisions people make, because there's going to be so many changes in the world, and we just need facts out there. There's so few facts in this world. It's disgusting. There's so little analysis of actual facts. It's all come down to social media and how you can market yourself and how you can convince people of your opinions when the opinions are based on nothing. People need to get back to the basics. And when they do, they're going to do a lot better for themselves.
All right. And I want to say one thing as it pertains to this term FUD. I find it so stupid. It's so offensive. I don't know if Cliff High came up with that, but I heard Bix parrot it. I heard JSNIP parrot it. You've said it now a bunch of times. This FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt. What on earth have we been talking about since the first time you and I ever started talking? We've been talking about fear, uncertainty, and doubt as it pertains to the future of the dollar. We want people to be prepared. We want people to have hard assets, tangible assets to protect themselves from what's coming. In my opinion, as I started saying a year and a half ago, that should include a little Bitcoin, maybe some Ethereum, maybe some of these other cryptos. It should absolutely include physical silver and physical gold. But to cast, it's an aspersion or a ad hominem at this point. FUD, to say somebody who is having a conversation with another person is just dealing in FUD.
Lynette Zang and Sean get really emotional in this interview. And Sean's scared to death. He has a lot of FUD.
This whole system is FUD. The whole system is falling apart. So, of course, there's going to be fear, uncertainty, and doubt because we don't know what's coming next, which brings me back to the SDR. And I know you don't even want to talk about it, but I'm going to just read this from Warren Coates. And he said, quote, I fully agree that short of a real crisis developing and expanding the role and use of the SDR will be a gradual step-by-step process. The development of private SDRs, for example, requires no decisions by the IMF at all if the existing currency basket is used. This was the topic of my Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank in the SDR article. That's a quote from Warren Coates. The only reason I go back to that, Andy, is not to argue about it, but just to say, is it not possible that these criminal banksters at the very top of the pyramid want to roll something else out to retain control? And I agree with you. I'm not saying they can destroy Bitcoin. I'm saying, is it not possible that they are working behind the scenes to try to usurp Bitcoin and usurp all of these other honest forms of the blockchain?
Well, look, of course, people are trying to stop Bitcoin. They've been trying to stop gold for thousands of years, and they'll stop trying to stop Bitcoin now. But first of all, you say Warren Coates, Dr. Warren Coates, the head of the SDR. That means nothing to me. He's an absolute zero. Lynette Zang, an absolute zero with no credibility. This guy runs an organization or is the head of whatever that has no credibility. So what do I care what he has to say? He can write all he wants with his elegant papers. It's meaningless. It's like the Bitcoin Cash white paper. And as for the word FUD, there's nothing. Look, I don't spread FUD about the dollar. I talk about facts about the dollar. The FUD, and it comes from the Bitcoin community, because the Bitcoin community, and the reason I got so upset about this Lynette Zang that everyone's emailing me about, is because people don't understand it. At least with gold, if this Karen Hudis comes out and goes, I know that there's all this gold in Hawaii. I was the lawyer for the IMF, and I just know this. No one else knows it, but just me and my alien buddies. We know it. At least you can laugh at that because it makes no sense at all. But when it comes to Bitcoin, because it's such a complicated technology to the average. It's complicated to me, but I spend like hours and hours each day trying to understand it. But when you put stuff like that out like that, people get scared and then they run away from the sector and they don't want to deal with it. And meanwhile, it's complete lies. It's the whole thing with all these forks that we've dealt with in Bitcoin for the past 2 years. I mean, every other month, there's a new scare. Oh, these guys are going to fork it. They're really powerful. Roger Ver and the Chinese miners and the Chinese government, they're all going to fork it, and destroy it. And the fact is, it makes people run away scared because they don't understand the technology. And look at that. Every single time that you listen to that stuff, which was all BS, it hurts you. And that's why I've had enough, because I've been listening to FUD in the gold sector. Last year was like, oh, India banned cash, now they're going to ban gold, and every time gold goes up, well, the government's going to do this and they're going to do that. And it's like, just enough already. Just stick with the facts and keep your head on straight and avoid people who are speaking opinions that they claim to be facts, which are just opinions. And so I think that, we are at a critical inflection point in monetary history. I truly believe that cryptocurrency, I wrote my last week's audio blog was called the upcoming monetary death cross, meaning when the majority start to realize that fiat is going to be replaced by crypto, it's going to be a massive, massive transfer of wealth. It's going to be a massive, massive change in pretty much every aspect of our lives, and it's coming very soon. And that's why I'm trying to get people to focus. And by the way, what I've said from day one, when I wrote my first article on the sector in May of 2016, precious metals and Bitcoin, twin destroyers of the fiat regime, and then in December, why Bitcoin will make gold and silver go up. These are allies, okay? They're not competitors. We got all these people in our sector that are out there all the time going, Bitcoin is nothing, it's useless, it's intrinsically worthless, only gold is going to survive. Yes, gold is going to survive, but it's not competing with Bitcoin. They are both wealth storage vehicles, and Bitcoin happens to also be what could be the basis of a new monetary standard. Gold has never been the basis of a monetary standard. It's been stolen, it's been bastardized, its governments have pretended it was, and while they stole all the gold or clipped all the coins, or reneged. I mean, we did it twice here between FDR and Nixon. There's no such thing as a gold standard because the governments will just steal all the gold. The problem is they can't create a Bitcoin standard. Bitcoin is decentralized. They cannot stop it. Certainly not bumbling buffoons at the IMF who can't do anything, right? I mean, they're led by what? Christine Lagarde? I mean, these people are morons. And I assure you there's not going to be a fiat currency based on other crappy fiat currencies, because when this system goes, as it's going right now, it's going to be the, as I call it, the Star Trek technology of cryptocurrency that usurps their Flintstones technology of fiat currency.
And I agree with you about Lagarde. She's a bumbling idiot, but she's also a puppet, just like Emmanuel Macron, used to work for a Rothschild bank. That's not conspiracy theory, it's conspiracy fact. And I just want to say one thing as it pertains to Bitcoin. I think that people's thoughts about Bitcoin have evolved over time. Yours has, mine has, but I don't think that we should call people who don't agree with us liars. Okay, so Lynette Zang, maybe she's wrong about Bitcoin. That doesn't make her a liar. Maybe
fine, she's not a liar. She's just completely and utterly wrong, and all she's doing is spreading things that are not true.
Okay,
so you can call it whatever you want.
Well, I don't know that she's spreading. I've interviewed her twice. In the first interview, we didn't talk about the ACChain, so there was no controversy, and the interview had 130,000 views. She's very articulate and very bright.
And you know what's so funny? The best, smartest people in Bitcoin. And when I tell you, Sean, that these smartest people I've ever met in my entire life, I am not understating, they are all in the Bitcoin community, okay? And the best, smartest them, with the price at 4,000, will get like 5,000 hits, okay? Yet this woman who's a complete nobody, certainly in the Bitcoin community, gets 130,000 hits. You know why? It's because people want to hear conspiracy theories. They want to hear that there's someone on the inside that's doing things.
But you know what? You are out of line right now because that
it is decentralized. There is no one that can do anything to stop it. They can shut down Coinbase, big deal. People go somewhere else. They can say it's illegal, big deal. They'll go somewhere else. They'll send it on computers that can't be seen. I'm telling you, people want to hear things that are going on that don't exist. Sometimes they do exist. In this case, does not exist. It's the definition of Bitcoin is that it is decentralized. I assure you that she knows absolutely nothing about what she's talking about. And whether she believes or not, I really couldn't care less, because we will never hear of this woman again as pertains to the ACH, whatever chain you're talking about.
Okay, so you don't know what it's called. You don't know what it's called, but you know everything about it. Okay, it's called ACChain.
I don't care what it's called. There's about 1,000 cryptocurrencies out there. I don't need to know them all. I know that they can't stop Bitcoin. You can do whatever you want.
But it looks like as moving forward, as commodities get digitized inside China, they're going to be using three underlying assets. They're going to be using Bitcoin, Ethereum, and this new ACChain.
Okay, and as it pertains to her being a nobody, and again,
more
conflation, because the first interview that I just mentioned to you that I did with her had nothing to do with any of that. It was about the dollar, the decline of the dollar, how the dollar is headed the same way as Venezuela and the Bolivar. Oh, okay, all right. All right. So, all right. No, I just love it. I love it how, it's the ultimate, it's really the ultimate hubris to claim you have the sole monopoly on truth. So
I didn't say I have the sole monopoly on truth. I said when it comes to what she's talking about in Bitcoin, it's wrong. Why don't you interview some of the really smart people, the technical people in Bitcoin? They will laugh at this. You think I'm laughing at this? I don't even have a technical background. Seek them out. You will get the hugest ratings ever because you'll get people who actually know what they're talking about with Bitcoin. And people want to know because they want to know why it's going up. And they want to know if it's going to stay up and if it's going to replace the dollar. Not about the same old stuff like, oh, the dollar is going down. The dollar's not going anywhere until Bitcoin replaces it. It's not going to go down against the euro. It's not going to go down against the yen. It's not going to go down against the yuan. They're all going down together. And it will be the last to lose its purchasing power, but they're all going down. The big issue is fiat versus crypto, and it has nothing to do with the SDR. It has nothing to do with any centralized agency. It has to do with the will of the world. That's the beauty of Bitcoin. When they wanted to do all these forks and they're spreading the FUD, And most people were quiet. They just sat quietly. And when you looked at the final result, the will of the world absolutely destroyed they didn't even leave any remnants of the potential destroyer's attempts to stop it. And that's why when I get all these emails, I'm like, oh, give me a break already. There's no such thing as a viable SDR, and there's certainly no such thing as a viable centralized attempt to stop Bitcoin.
All right, let me say one thing as it pertains to talking to people who are informed. Before I interviewed Lynette Zang about ACChain, I had interviewed my friend Justin, who is the co-founder of BitShares, and he's a personal friend of Dan Larimer's. And in that very intriguing conversation...
The Steemit guy, right?
Yeah, about Steemit. What's cool about him is he's very, very forthright and honest, and we've shared a lot of emails just privately with each other. He's trying to educate me about Steemit and BitShares, and he actually believes this with his heart and soul. The blockchain technology can be used for good, or it can be used for evil. It can free humanity, or it can enslave humanity further. And so that's what he wants people to know. And he's working very, very hard and very selflessly to get the word out about the blockchain and how it can be used. He's a big believer in BitShares. And so I don't know. I just think that we all just need to take a deep breath. And I agree with you. You and I previously believed that the only forms of honest money were physical silver and physical gold. Maybe throw a little platinum in there, a little palladium. But for monetary metals and the monetary sovereignty of our nation moving forward, it would be a return to honest money, silver and gold. Now we have Bitcoin in there. That really is a sea change. I mean, it's a sea change in the conversation, Andy, that just started a couple of years ago. Because as you know, Bitcoin came out in 2009. And boy, don't you wish we'd each bought, a couple 100,000 at a penny? I mean, this whole thing with Bitcoin and the blockchain is a sea change. And as Justin told me, the blockchain can be used to enslave humanity or free humanity. And I just hope it's used, I hope it can free humanity. I really do.
Well, I mean, look, there's nothing certain. I mean, there's not a guarantee that everything will be the perfect best case scenario, but I just don't understand how it could enslave humanity. First of all, the blockchain is like there's a million blockchains. There's like the SDR ACH blockchain. There's a million of them. It's not. We're talking about the Bitcoin blockchain. That's the only one that has the potential to change humanity, and I can't see how it can enslave it. I mean, yes, there's always, you take technology and you could do bad things with it, but again, no one can control Bitcoin. So I'm not sure who it is that can enslave humanity with it. Fiat currency is what enslaves humanity, and it has been the biggest destroyer of humanity, pretty much the biggest man-made destroyer since the beginning of time. I said that, and in religious crusades. Otherwise, humanity does pretty good for itself, and that's why it's so exciting that we're going to have, I believe very strongly, that Bitcoin is going to be able to kill off this killer, this destroyer of humanity. And we can move from the Flintstones world toward the Star Trek world. Nothing is perfect, but as the consensus of the world, the silent majority that uses Bitcoin continues to move forward with the common vision, which we all have. Otherwise, these forks would work, and they don't work. I really believe that it's going to free humanity. And by the way, it's going to free the gold and silver price for a variety of reasons, starting with the destruction of fiat currency, and secondly, because the government will start to realize that it's no longer the principal monetary threat. And when they do, possibly, my new base case scenario is that the gold cartel is not overwhelmed, that they just disband and go, what's the point anymore? We barely have any gold left, that we never had any silver. We just have all these paper derivatives to do flash crashes with. And what's the point? Everyone's focusing on Bitcoin right now, so why don't we focus our efforts on that, like Don Quixote flailing at windmills, and the next thing you know, gold will be 10,000 and no one will care. Governments won't be confiscating, talking about it. It'll just be another asset. We can actually enjoy our gains because they've been suppressed for so long. And I fully believe that someday, I don't know how many years, 1 year, 5 years, gold will be 10,000 and no one will care. All those people who bought it because they knew it was undervalued will make a lot of money in it, as opposed to like running around trying to survive in a Mad Max world. We'll actually just be able to enjoy our gains of $10,000 gold and who knows what price in silver.
I want to ask you one last thing here as it pertains to Bitcoin. How in the world will Bitcoin save us if you're not an early adopter or an innovator? Which is to say this. I think there are a lot of people out there talking their books as it pertains to Bitcoin, because a lot of people probably have a whole hell of a lot more than I've got. I have a small handful of Bitcoin. If I had 1,000 of them, if I had a couple hundred of them, it would be a heck of a run. Let's put it that way. But at $4,000 Bitcoin, when the average American doesn't even have $4,000 in a checking account saved for a worst case scenario, how in the world does the average guy get in on Bitcoin and at this point, at $4,000 per Bitcoin, and really make any sort of impact in their life? Most people can't even buy one Bitcoin. What happens when this thing hits 10,000, 12,000, 50,000?
Well,
how is that going to help anybody?
Well, that's a fantastic question. And the answer is, it's not just the price, okay? It's not a speculation. I mean, yes, if you buy it now, it is speculative, especially if that's the only reason you're buying it, because you think, well, I'll buy it now and then I'll sell it later and I'll flip it. The point is that Bitcoin is going to usurp the fiat currency system. It has a deflationary monetary model. So there's only going to be 21 million, of which 16 and a half are already out there. So it can't be inflated away. So it's going to all the problems that we've had in the world, everything we're dealing with today, the exploding debt, the social unrest, the wealth inequality, the overcapacity, the serially collapsing currencies, is because of fiat currency and the damage that is done by overprinting of money by centralized authorities. Once that's taken out of their hands, and the only Bitcoin that's going to come out is the other 4.5 million units over the next 100 years, because that's how long it'll take for those final 4.5 million units to be mined. It's going to reduce inflation. It's going to get people back to where we were when we were on a gold standard, where you actually didn't have to worry about inflation all the time or worry about how the government would react every time there was a crisis. So it's going to make the economy a much safer place, and it's going to reduce debt. And of course, we're going to have, at some point in the future, some kind of debt jubilee. And I don't mean a, quote, debt jubilee from the religious standpoint. I'm talking about a crisis where a lot of debt is reneged on, and we get back to normalized levels of leverage. And then under a new crypto or Bitcoin related system, you just won't, it's like a gold standard. There's no ability for governments to come in and print away the economy and steal all the money, because that's what they do. They print the money and give it to themselves. And so in that way, I think it's going to help everybody. But yes, along the way, everyone is going to start adopting, and they're going to buy some, even if it's a little bit, because if this system works, the price will keep going up over time. And anytime you buy it because you need to own it, to do transactions and in time, it'll go up in value. So there's a lot of ways it can help. It's not because, well, I wish I bought it at $100 as opposed to I'm buying at $4,000. There's definitely going to be a big wealth transfer of some people who are very rich now will be less rich, and some people who are not so rich now are going to become very rich. But the average person is going to be better off whether it's because they own Bitcoin over time or because they just are exposed to a system of fair and honest money. And the whole thing is, it's so great. We're sitting there talking about all this, and in the background is going to be gold and silver, or all that fiat currency that's going to be destroyed. Some of it's going to find its way into gold and silver. In fact, probably a good amount of it will. The problem is there's not very much gold and silver out there. So the prices will go up huge, and everyone will be happy. And it'll have nothing to do with the monetary system being replaced. That's going to be, as I said, the ultimate monetary death cross, where fiat is usurped by crypto.
All right, and to sum up here, guys, the interesting thing, I've said this before to other friends, guy friends, when there's disagreements, even arguing, even fights between buddies, generally speaking, and ladies, if you're listening, please don't consider this sexist, but guys generally don't hold a grudge sort of the same way that my experience, Andy, is that sometimes when, gals get in fights, they hold grudges that go on and on. I've seen it in our own neighborhood here. Guys generally can hash things out in a way like you and I just did, throw it all up on the wall and walk away friends. We'll get Andy back on again. Andy, when we end the call here, let's stay on and we'll take a look at the calendar. Final question for you. Are there any other cryptos out there that you own and believe in as strongly as Bitcoin? I own some Ethereum, I own some Litecoin, and I own some, I guess, crappy cryptos. Let's see where they go. Are there any other cryptos out there that you recommend that aren't quite as pricey as Bitcoin at $4,000?
Well, actually, it's funny you're talking about how men are versus women. I was just watching. This is a great new Amazon original called Mad Dogs. And on it, they talk about that, how women, regret things they did, and men regret things that they didn't do, and how men don't talk. They may do a text, but they don't talk. They just move on, and that's how I feel. But in this case, I don't feel There's an argument at all. I'm not even arguing with you. I'm just making a statement in general about my feelings about the world. That's all. And as for you, I think SGT is one of the greatest websites in history. I mean, thank God we have freedom fighters like you who have put yourself at great personal risk to put out truth. So I have no problem with you. I really don't even have a problem with any of these other people I'm talking about. I'm just trying to get a concept that I want people to think for themselves and not take for gospel things that don't have proof. Sometimes there is proof. Sometimes there's some proof, but not enough. And sometimes there's no proof. And that's what everyone needs to say for themselves. As for the cryptos, how I feel about them, look, I have a very big position in Bitcoin. I believe in it very strongly. I'm not recommending anyone do the same. It's very speculative. In fact, I wrote today, everyone should read. You'll love this. It's called, where's the name of it? It's called like bullion, Bitcoin buying and bullion swaps, the wisdom of experience. Because the whole concept of buying the cryptocurrencies, it's a lot more dangerous and scary and a lot of hoops that you have to go through and security. And so you better be very careful and learn from someone who knows what they're talking about before you do it. And as for me, look, I have the Bitcoin. I do have Litecoin. I believe that Litecoin is it was for all intents and purposes, forked off of Bitcoin for the purpose of being like Bitcoin. So I believe in it as they call it silver to Bitcoin's gold. It'll never be Bitcoin. It's just like silver is not going to ever pass gold, but it's going to be the same kind of thing. So I like that one. But all the other ones to me are hugely speculative. I don't believe, me personally as a monetary guy, I only have any interest in things that have a cap in production like Bitcoin and Litecoin do. Ethereum does not. And again, I don't know enough about technology to understand these things, and particularly because right now the whole ICO market is Wild West. I mean, aside from being unregulated, it's really, really crazy right now. People just investing in other people's ideas without any recourse, without any knowledge of whether it could work. And I see there was one today, Filecoin, $250 million and counting. They haven't even done anything yet. They have an idea. So no, I am going to stick with where I am. And of course, my gold and silver, which isn't going anywhere. So it's going to be interesting times now. And I advise everyone to just do your homework, because do not let opinions sway you until you know what the facts are.
All right. Well, I really appreciate those kind comments about SGT Report. We've known each other for a long time, so we shall part as friends, and we'll get you back on here in about another month. And can you remind people, again, the first silver I ever bought in physical form was 10 10-ounce bars of physical silver. I got them from Miles Franklin. And guys, if you want to do the same, you can reach out to Andy. Certainly, he's a passionate person who believes in what he talks about. Andy, how can they get a hold of you guys?
Yes, again, we've been around 28 years without a single registered complaint, and I write every day and do these podcasts for free every day at milesfranklin.com. You can call us at 800-822-8080 or email me at ahoffman@milesfranklin.com.
All right, very good. Andy, thanks so much for your time. We'll talk again soon.
Absolutely.
All right, and guys, thank you so much for tuning in. For real news, the antidote to corporate propaganda, please do visit the new and improved mobile-friendly sgtreport.com for real news 24/7. And for a little bit of that conspiracy theory and edgier videos, check out my site, thephaser.com. And of course, thelibertymill.com. Again, real news 24/7. Guys, thanks so much for tuning in. God bless.
These are smart, dedicated, loyal Americans. Your audience needs to understand that. The problem is there's not those people that are in there. They never get a voice. They are locked away and in there. The problem is the politics of power and wealth that is running this country.